Okay, today we are sitting with Alastair Still. He is, of course, the CEO of GoldMining Inc. First of all, Alastair, thank you for your time. I know you are busy these days in the conference, but how are you today?
It's always a pleasure to be here with you, Luis. I'm exceptionally well today and very excited to be here talking to you.
Well, Alastair, we had a really nice conversation. I believe it was 7 months ago. We did a complete interview of GoldMining Inc., his company, 1 hour interview. I'm going to put the link in the description because you want to first visit that video because we are going to talk a little bit more about details in this video. We are going to be updating this thesis that the company GoldMining is, in my opinion, a big position. I'm a shareholder and I believe it's really undervalued. Today, last time we talked, Alastair, was 7 months ago. Gold prices were $2,000. Today is 2,400 almost. So my first question will be, you are an expert in this industry. What has changed in the gold mining space from 2000 to $2,004 price? More cash on the companies, people looking to acquire companies. Have you seen any change over this period?
It's a great question, and one of the changes that we haven't seen, and this is talking as a general industry, we haven't seen the appreciation of the gold equities keep pace with the rise in the gold price. So as you say, earlier this year, when the gold price was closer to $2,000 per ounce, equities were trading, still perhaps undervalued. But since then, the gold price has risen considerably, and the basket of equities in general have not kept pace. Now, what does that mean? I think in general that means, and again, we can talk about specific stocks, and I'm happy to talk about our company, but just in general, I think that's a tremendous opportunity because I think that gap or that lag between the equities and the actual gold price, that will catch up sooner rather than later. So I think there's due to be a correction in the overall equities. So that makes it a good time for investing. And one of the catalysts that I think we can see coming up here, and I think this is something the investors are waiting to see, waiting to gain confidence in. I think it's important that the larger companies, the existing operators, the Barricks, the Newmonts, the Agnico Eagles, the Kinrosses, etc., when they start coming out with Q2 results in the coming weeks, and these are going to be results now reporting from the higher gold price environment, I think once these companies start reporting exceptional earnings at those higher gold prices, that's the confidence builder that may trigger the market to realize, hey, there's some real unappreciated value in the gold space. Gold equities is a place I should have some of my investments in. It's always great to be diversified, but I think there's some real undervalued assets as an industry here, and it's a perfect time for investors.
Okay, yeah, that's what I believe too. And the big companies are the ones that have the cash and the first movers. But then if you look deep and you want to seek better investment, better value, you have to look in the smaller camp, let's say. And you've worked in both. You've been working in the big major companies and now in a small company, let's say, because the market cap, not because the projects. Yeah. And maybe we can talk a little bit about the 3 big news that you put out this last week, these last months, that maybe we can talk first about the St. George project. I don't know if you can see it on the screen. Now you can. Maybe you can talk a little bit about what this means for the company. It's a project that it's been for 10 years without an exploration. You drill, you hit gold, and yeah, what's the take on this project?
No, it's an exciting time for St. George, and it's interesting having this interview 7 months after the last one because we can actually check ourselves to see what we said we were going to do versus what we have done. And I know that we had talked about St. George last time. So I think it's very encouraging that we have delivered on that. We have completed an initial drill program at St. George, the first program since 2011, by the way. Oh, so it's really about reawakening this project. It was one of the original companies when gold mining was first being started. Our company had started life more than 10 years ago. We were called Brazil Resources Inc. We started with assets in Brazil, and we've returned to the quality and the foundation of our company to demonstrate the value. And The drill results that we've put out a couple of weeks ago, we had some additional results earlier this week as well, I think are great results confirming our belief in the quality of the San George deposit. This is a near surface open pittable deposit. It has grades that look strong at 1 gram per ton and higher, which is always a bit of a benchmark for quality on open pit deposits. It's very important that it's near to infrastructure. We're less than 3 kilometers from the major state paved highway. We have a major transmission line for power running across the property. There's a 138 kV power line, so that's important. So good access to power and road. There's a workforce nearby in the town of Novo Progreso, so great infrastructure, and now we're confirming the great geology of the deposit.
Okay.
These drill results you're showing here shows that we do have a broad zone of mineralization, so continuity is good, over 160 meters. That's impressive, with a grade over 1 gram per ton. And within there are of course some higher grade zones. There was 37 meters at 2.2 grams or higher. So good, strong mineralization being confirmed from these holes. This initial first hole was in an area that we expected mineralization, but we have done some additional modeling. We've added significantly to our team in the last year or two. We've added a senior geologist who's come over from Newmont earlier this year, and our VP Exploration, who also was the director of North American Exploration for Newmont, is also the first time he's getting his teeth into this project, really digging in. And I think that's exceptionally important because we need a good, strong technical foundation for the project that started with a good team, building a strong geological model, and these results are really helping to confirm that. And I like to tell people that they say, "Wow, you're bringing in geologists from the largest gold mining company in the world. How are you able to do that?" And I joke, it's not because I necessarily pay them more, but they're excited about the projects they want to come work within our portfolio. That's a great indication. So when these geologists who've worked for the world's leading companies have done their own due diligence and want to become part of the team, I think that's a great positive sign on what we have within our portfolio.
Yeah, that's an amazing figure to have, those two names that you bring on from Newmont. For someone that is really a noob, that is not experienced, that doesn't know anything about geology, for example, like me or someone else watching this video, I see the results that, okay, 1 gram per ton is good, is the average of in the wall. But if you see here, like there is a 1 meter, if you drill 100 meters from surface, you find that it's 11, 12 grams per ton. Someone that is not experienced, it's that sweet spot, 100 meters, something that you want to approach, or how are the geological model telling you why is this a project important? Why is really rich geological talking?
Well, that's a great question, and I think the strength here is the style of mineralization. This is an intrusion-related deposit. All that really means is that it's made up of intrusive rocks, which are rocks that form originally within the Earth's crust, versus a sedimentary rock, which is a buildup of sedimentary layers. And those type of deposits have fluids flowing through them when they're being formed. And what we really want to see is strong concentrations of those fluids where you get the higher grade. Yes, we do have individual zones where there are higher grades, as you've shown in the image here. Grades can be 11.47 grams per ton. But really, what we want to see for this style of mineralization is broad, continuous zones of mineralization, so we can mine these things with scale and efficiency of scale. And the scale component is very important, and that's why we report the individual higher grades, but we show over a broader interval that if we're mining a larger entity, can we have grade? And one of the benchmarks I like to reference people to grade, just to say, well, what does 1 gram per ton mean of gold? That doesn't sound like a lot to me. And it's not, but what it really means is that it's an efficiency of scale. And if I pointed people to the largest 2 gold mines in Canada, people may have heard of Malartic Mine and Detour Lake Mine. And so we have big companies, big mines in Canada. Both of those mines are open pit operations, and they mine at grades less than 1 gram per ton. So here we have a deposit that seems to be showing consistency of grades in the resource modeling over 1 gram per ton. That's important. So I think that's good to see. The other reference I would give, and it's interesting timing because I've been talking to their team this week. There's a neighboring company called GoldMining who have just bringing a project into production in the same district. It's called the Tocantinzinho Project, and that has just announced their first gold pour earlier this week. So it's great that they've built a mine in the same district. They have similar grades. They're a little more remote from us because they're further off the highway. But it shows that this is an important district of Brazil. This is in Pará state, towards the northeast part of the country. But it shows that there's a talented workforce there. There's ability to bring mines into production, to permit them, deal with the social and environmental and political issues necessary to permit a mine to move forward. All positive things we've seen from the same region that give our project a lot of opportunity to move forward here.
Well, yeah, that's great to have some partner, well, some neighbor that is building something similar to what you plan to build in the future. Talking about a scale, you put a news release, well, this was last year for the Whistler project. It was something like 500 meters. That's a lot, almost half a kilometer of, I don't recall the grams per ton, but it was above 1 gram per ton, so it was pretty nice. And your team is commencement again the Whistler project. Can you tell us briefly what you want to accomplish and what will be the goal for that drill program?
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly very excited about our Whistler project. And this is a project that was put into a new vehicle last year, just over a year ago, a company called GoldMining Inc, which GoldMining Inc owns approximately 80% of. So shareholders in GoldMining get exposure to Whistler through our 80% ownership in GoldMining Inc, which trades on the NASDAQ exchange. You're absolutely right. Last year, and in fact earlier this year in January, we released results from our first ever program there for the company. And I think it was 547 meters at over 1 gram per ton gold equivalent. That mineralization did extend to surface. So that's an exceptional depth and consistency of mineralization. And that is really what I think is important here. It shows that the type of deposit that is, and that's a copper gold porphyry style of mineralization. And that sounds like a funny name, but really what the message there is that copper porphyries host some of the largest deposits on the planet. Many of the large deposits in Peru and Chile, which occur in the high Andes, are porphyry style systems. Here at our project, Whistler in Alaska, we have a porphyry system coming right to surface, very favorable terrain conditions. And as you say, we had an exceptional drill result. What's important for us, though, is that we're now back in the field this year, drilling again in Alaska. We're targeting additional zones of mineralization. And that hole, which was almost 600 meters deep, it actually was still in mineralization when the hole was stopped, right when we started to shut down for the winter last year. So the team at site has been very busy preparing a first hole. We've been underway with that. We were actually going back into that hole and we're deepening it. We want to see how deep this system can go. And these type of systems we've seen elsewhere in the world, they can extend for 1,000 meters, up to 2,000 meters, so 1 to 2 kilometers depth. Wow. And while that may mean that we don't have an open pit mine that may go that deep, many of these deposits start life as an open pit operation to attract the mineralization closer to the surface. Then they start a second life where they have an underground component that continues mining and a bulk underground mining to move this forward. And that's the exciting part here is we don't know how big this can be. We already have a very significant resource. It's 3 million gold equivalent ounces of gold and copper in the indicated category and almost 6.5 million gold equivalent ounces inferred. It's gold focused, but it has close to a third of the commodity exposure is to copper. And I think that's very important here. The copper occurs with the gold, very strategic metal. All the efforts for strategic importance, greening of the economy, electrification of vehicles, and the infrastructure for them requires huge amounts of copper. This is a highly sought after metal, particularly once it's occurring in the U.S. The U.S. wants an independence for their own metal sources, and a gold copper mine in Alaska checks a lot of very important boxes there.
Yeah, this is what majors want, I believe. The porphyry copper, big scale that can have two stages. So, and one thing that is really funny to me, and this is speculating, you are the CEO, maybe you can take your CEO jacket and tell me something more, but you put in the news release that this is a great project that is not in the hands of a major and yet. So what that yet means and what's your plans for, and maybe you can talk a little bit or we can move to Riyadh. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, I think it's an important comment to make is that these type of deposits, when you get to be this scale,
Mm-hmm.
and we still haven't defined how big it can get, but even at its existing scale is a very large, significant deposit. Most of the deposits of that scale have been acquired by larger companies, and those larger companies are the ones who will eventually likely develop them. We can't say for certain what will happen with this project,
Mm-hmm.
but it's of the type of scale and quality and location that many of those larger major mining companies are looking for. It's been shown for many years now that the big producing companies have not been able to replace their own reserves. So that means they need to do either more exploration or they need to go and acquire projects to put into their pipeline to develop to meet up with their depletions or the current mine plans they have. So while I can't say what that may lead to, I can say that the results that we've been having and the location, the size of the deposit has attracted interest. And there are a lot of companies coming to ask us questions and dig deeper into this deposit so they can see it. And we emphasize again that the team that's running this and Tim Smith, again, who's the CEO of that the entity and as our VP of exploration, Tim came from the world's largest gold mining company. Now, I spent almost 25 years for the largest mining companies in the world, scouring the globe, looking for new projects, doing project evaluations. We know the standards, we know the quality that the bigger companies are looking for, so we can have that data in a state when people do come looking, that they know what to expect and can trust and have quality in the data. So I think it's very important that our team recognizes what's needed for that and has the skill set and ability to deliver for that.
That's very important, yeah. And I'm going to put in the screen. This is the company that we are talking about. Is US Gold Mining, trading under US Go in the Nasdaq. The company is pretty cheap right now, 72 million market cap for almost 10 million ounces. So that's like $7 per ounce. And as Alastair is saying, good team backing. It will be more ounces probably happening in near future with the PA, etc. And yeah, the projects that are buying out are the majors are in the hundreds of dollars per ounce. So yeah, this is a pure exploration company under the GoldMining Inc, which is more a conglomerate, the very cheap, undervalued company that has a lot of projects around the Americas. Last project that we can talk about, we can talk briefly because there is no more public information about that, is the Uranium Project. What can we expect, the investors, from that?
Well, I'm glad you raised the Uranium Project because that is one that sometimes confuses investors and they're surprised to learn, wait, a company called GoldMining Inc. has a uranium property? And yes, that is correct. Much like we talked about having exposure to copper, and about 20% of our exposure on the resource statements is copper. So we have gold and copper. People know about those elements or those metals. But few people seem to recognize that we do, in fact, have a very large exploration property for uranium in the Athabasca Basin. This is in Alberta, Canada. So well-established mining jurisdiction in Canada. And in fact, the Athabasca Basin hosts producing uranium mines today that are some of, and in fact, the highest uranium deposits on Earth. So it's a great jurisdiction. There's an awful lot of activity happening with uranium for exploration, people acquiring properties. And lo and behold, gold mining has a very large property. It's 125,000 hectares in size. And it's on some known mineralization of uranium. waiting to be advanced to the next stage. We've had the project, I think it was since 2013.
Mm-hmm.
So it sat waiting for an opportunity. This was not an afterthought added on to. We've seen the terrific results about 60 kilometers from us. Fission uranium, there's an Arrow deposit, there's a triple R. There's been some tremendous activities in the basin, and our project has actually been around before those, but been sitting idle because it hasn't been a priority for gold mining. I think that is now changing. We're recognizing the strategic importance of this project, and we see two likely paths. We're continuing with some modest activities to fine-tune and strengthen the exploration on the project, while we commence activities for the permitting for advancing to a drill program. As that's happening, we're attracting attention from uranium companies, uranium explorers, who are very much looking to add to their portfolios. And at the same time, too, we're looking at alternatives where this is the type of deposit with scale and size that it could be launched as a spin out as a new IPO. And if we IPO this company, GoldMining would be a major shareholder. And so our shareholders would benefit by unlocking value for something which right now very few people give us credit for on our balance sheet. So stay tuned for some additional news there as we continue to advance our plans. But this is an exciting, someone once referred to it as a bit of a wild card within our portfolio. But you think of a company that offers exposure to gold, copper, and also uranium. It's a great combination, and particularly with the importance of uranium for the greening of the economy. There are very few goals towards a greening of the economy that can occur without uranium, and there simply is not enough global supply to meet those needs. So additional projects for exploration of uranium are very much in demand and sought after these days.
Yeah, and actually my listeners know a lot about uranium because we've been covering uranium for almost 5 years. We've been investing along Amir and Nani and Scott Melby. We've been here in the channel as well. I think we have 300, 400% gains on those companies. Very, very, very well backed. And the time to invest in uranium was a long time ago. Now, for those companies, I believe right now, and listeners, that the RIA project is going to be a spin out, maybe, and it's like a free call option on uranium. It's the cheapest, probably, uranium company right now in the planet. So, yeah, very, very good job on that. I think we covered the main highlights on the gold mining. I urge to look at the website. I'm going to put in the description. And yeah, nothing more from my part. Alastair, thank you a lot for coming and spending this wonderful time with me and my listeners.
Well, I appreciate being here, and I think we've touched on some key points. One thing just to remind people about too is that over the last year or two now, GoldMining has also built up an exceptional balance sheet with cash and equities. And if leaders follow to our website at the time of this recording, the value of those cash and equities on our balance sheet is close to $150 million. And with a market cap of some $220 million, that means the enterprise value of a very large and extensive gold and copper-based resources in the Americas, and as you say, with an additional uranium property, really is a tremendously undervalued opportunity. It's de-risked by the fact that there's multiple projects, de-risked by the fact there's multiple elements, de-risked by a experienced management team. So a lot of opportunities here waiting for a re-rating and recognition as we continue to advance on our projects.
Yep, and this slide summarizes what Alastair has had to say. The enterprise value, the balance sheet is almost $2 per ounce, so quite cheap, and something that it doesn't appear on the balance sheet, maybe in the income statement, but is all the experience that the management team they have. So yeah, very well backed company, and hopefully we can do this again in 6 months from now, and yeah, updating what's going on GoldMining. Thank you again, Alastair, for your time.
Thanks for hosting me, and I'd be happy to come back and provide an update anytime, Luis. You give me a call and we'll make it happen.
Bye.